Hello folks, welcome to Radio Espial episode 60, and we're going to talk about the case of Conor and Sheila Dwyer, who disappeared in 1991 in this episode. Now, thanks very much for all of your support, very much appreciated, and your nice comments under the videos there, very much appreciated. And we're at this instant in time now, we're at 2,904 subscribers. So we're closing in on the 3,000 subscribers. So that's great news, and much appreciated all your support. So thank you. Now, Mick will join us when we get into the timeline. I'm going to go through the case summary and case background now first. So Conor and Sheila Dwyer, she was born Sheila Sweeney, aged 62 and 60 respectively, were last seen at a funeral in their local church, St. Patrick's, close to the home at number 5 on Chapel Hill in Fermoy, County Cork, on the 30th of April 1991. Now, as always, with these cases as well, please put yourself back. That's 33 years ago, nearly 34 years ago. So please just put yourself back at that time if you were alive then. If you weren't, you can try and imagine it. That was a different time. Most of the geography was probably similar enough, but there was a lot of differences in the locality and in Irish life there as well. Just thinking back, that was the year the commitments came out, for example, and it was the year after Italia 90 and so on. So it was a good many years ago. So try and put yourself back in those times. No mobile phones, etc. And so just think back to then anyway. So anyway, they were last heard from by telephone the following day on the 1st of May. A call between Sheila Dwyer and her sisters Maisie and Nellie. Now, on Mrs. Dwyer's birthday on the 19th of May 1991, after her sister attempted to call her to send her birthday greetings, she received no answer, and then both sisters went to the house and found it empty on Chapel Hill. So they reported Conor and Sheila Dwyer missing 3 days later on the 22nd of May 1991. Now we have a picture there of the church where they attended the funeral. That's St. Patrick's Church there, and just a map covering a small area there. That's actually on Chapel Hill. The hill falls away as you go north there, and the church is behind it there, up further in the hill. So there's as you can see there, there's a little square in the road, and then the house was on up towards the top of the hill there, and then that road led back down into the R639 then. Okay, so there are the two diagrams. Now, when the gardai entered the house, nothing was out of place. Their passports were there, as were the reading glasses, which were left on the sofa, and a sizable amount of cash was also found, reportedly around 1,000 Irish punts. Now, their car was a late 1970s model Toyota Cressida with registration number 5797ZT, and that would have been issued between August 1977 and June 1978. It was the old style Irish reg plates there that ran from 1963 1987, and the car vanished at the same time the couple did, and no trace of them or the car has ever surfaced in over 33 years since. Now, that car there is a mock-up for a reconstruction they did, and there were no reports of the car leaving the country or being re-registered under any other name either since. Now, just physical descriptions, you saw the photos at the top there. Conor Dwyer was described as standing 5'8" or 173 centimeters, with a tan complexion, of stocky build, and he wore glasses. While Sheila Dwyer was 5'4" tall or 162 centimeters, of a slim build, fair complexion, and long blonde hair. They had two adult sons, Conor Jr. and Jerry, who both lived in the UK at the time that their parents disappeared. So that's case summary. Now, we'll have go into the case background there, and just from a few different angles there. We'll start just with a quick printed media review of what's been published to date. This isn't exhaustive, just to give you an idea of to get where get details from and so on, and what's been published over the years, but isn't exhaustive. But you can dig in further if they wish there. So as missing persons cases go, this is relatively high profile, or as high profile as any of these cases can get. And there's been regular coverage on TV, radio, and print media over the years, and that continues to this day. And even this year, there was a crime call episode featuring the case in April of this year, 2024. Now, going back a few years, RT's the national broadcaster in Ireland, Radio Television Éireann, so that's Radio Television Ireland. In March 2008, there was a radio documentary titled Thin Air by Kieran Cassidy, and that's very informative. It covers the Dwyer case and another missing person case as well from Fermoy from the previous year, 1990, that of William Bill Fennessey, and that his remains were recovered several years later. I mean, in 2012, his remains were recovered, and more on that case later. I'll give a bit more detail later. No, and that podcast is still available off the RT website, podcast website there. No, newspaper coverage is informative as well, despite plenty of misinformation, speculation, and sensation as always. But once you pick through that, there's a lot of informative material in the print media as well. And just thankfully, one newspaper article's attempt to introduce the sensationalist term, the North Cork Triangle, due to the Dwyer and Fennessey cases, thankfully did not catch on, and that died a death of the article, thankfully. So, local Fermoy-based journalist Ralph Regal, he's been on this case since the start, and has been one of the primary reporters and advocates for the Dwyers in the case as well. So, check out some of the articles that he's written there as well. Now, we're going to take an insert now next, and this has Ralph Regal talking to Pat Kenny in a News Talk feature in 2023. So, we'll just have a listen to that now.
For 32 years, the mystery of the disappearance of Conor and Sheila Dwyer has intrigued people, and this week being the 32nd anniversary, it is time to remember the couple who vanished without a trace all those years ago. Ralph Regal is the Southern correspondent for the Irish Independent, and he's on the line. Ralph, good morning.
Good morning, Pat.
This is an extraordinary mystery. You had a couple in their 60s who simply vanished without a trace.
Yeah, very much so. And I think that's the kernel of the story, Pat, is that it was a couple who vanished. I mean, we do have people that vanish. Sadly, it's quite commonplace within society. And some of them vanish for years, if not decades. But in this particular instance, to have two people in their 60s, ordinary people, they had lived quite routine lives. They stuck very much to a normal schedule, as most of us do. And it literally is as if they stepped off the face of the earth. They were last seen going to a funeral in the town of Fermoy in County Cork. Now, they lived off the kind of the main street of the town, as you will, at a place called Chapel Hill. They lived within sight of the St. Patrick's Church in Fermoy, and they were.
So they walked to church, did they?
They would have walked to church, yeah. Now, Mr. Dwyer drove a white Toyota Cressida car, quite a distinctive vehicle at the time. And how the alarm was raised was they were seen going to this funeral. Mrs. Dwyer talked to her sister, I think it was the following day, and then there was no contact. Now, family members had tried over a week or two to try and contact the couple. Now, their two adult sons were working overseas at the time, and family members, when they couldn't contact them, they eventually went to the Gardaí. Gardaí went to the property. The Toyota car wasn't there. When Gardaí gained access to the property, what makes the disappearance so bizarre is their bank details were there, their passports were there, travel documents, suitcases, all of their clothing. There was no indication that they had packed for any type of trip. There was no indication that anyone had broken into the house. There was no indication of a robbery, but the car was gone. And from that day until now, there has been no trace of the vehicle. There's been no confirmed sighting of Conor and Sheila Dwyer. There have been a number of sightings investigated, but Gardaí believe that they were well-intentioned but mistaken, one of which actually was in Germany. So despite numerous appeals, despite an elaborate recreation of their last movements, there's not been any inkling of what happened to them. And Gardaí had really pinned all of their hopes on tracing the car. If they could have found the car, if they could have even found parts of the car, it might have given them some area to focus their investigation on. But from that day until now, there's been no trace.
Now, the registration number of the Toyota Cressida, white in colour, 5797ZT.
Yeah, and it was quite an unusual car at the time because, of course, Toyotas were very popular in Ireland from probably the mid-70s onwards, but it would have been models like maybe the Corolla would have been very commonplace. The Cressida much less so. Now, Mr. Dwyer was very careful of his car, so the car was always kept in immaculate condition. And he worked for a man called Fritz Wolf, who was a German national who had a property in North Cork, and he worked helping him on various jobs. And one of those jobs was actually looking after his cars. So the Cressida was always kept immaculately, but there's been no trace of it. Gardaí have tried scrapyards, they have tried ports, airports. Of course, one of the reasons why they were hampered in their investigation in ways is the fact that back then there was no CCTV camera footage. So where...
Okay, folks, that was Ralph Regal talking to Pat Kenny there in News Talk. Just a quick snippet there. No, we've got that's a nice picture there again of the Dwyers there, outdoors there. So we just included that there as well. And we've another picture of them on their wedding day there, which I think that was a nice picture to find there as well. They're looking very well there. So that's just a picture of them when they were younger, much over there when they got married. No, I'm just going to talk about them individually now, and then about their work and family life. So Conor Dwyer sometimes worked for himself. He was involved in selling pipes and installing central heating when he worked for himself. But he mainly worked as a handyman, plumber, chauffeur, and some other jobs as well. And he's employed as a chauffeur, and some doing some other work as well by German businessman Fritz Wolf, who owned Castlelyons House. Now, Castlelyons is a village less than 5 miles or 8 kilometres southeast of the Dwyer home in Chapel Hill, Fermoy. And Wolf had a passion for quality cars, and part of Conor Dwyer's duties were looking after several of his fine cars there as well, and he used to get to drive them around as well, including a Rolls. So that was a great job. Now, Conor Dwyer's next door neighbour Michael recalled him as a terrible nice man and a very generous man. He also said that he had incidents about him and a way about him. So obviously very fond of him there. And a former colleague of Conor Dwyer's as well, Peter Massey, recalled him as a kind, gentle and honest man, and said the couple were just nice people to be around. Now, Sheila Dwyer, Conor Dwyer's wife, was a homemaker. Her maiden name was Sweeney, and she was from an old Fermoy family there. She had 2 sisters, Mary, better known as Maisie, and Nellie. And she also had a brother named Michael. Now, they're all now deceased, and Sheila and Conor Dwyer spent a lot of time together, and they were a familiar sight in the town, travelling the Toyota Cressida or one of Fritz Wolf's luxury cars. Now, she was fastidious and immaculate in her appearance, and Sheila Dwyer was always well groomed. She was said to be reserved, quiet, polite, and she was well liked by those that knew her in the town. Her next door neighbours, Michael, who I mentioned already, and Pat, recalled her as a quiet, very nice person. Pat recalled that Sheila Dwyer was glamorous and with beautiful hair and waved like the Queen when she saw her in the car. And that wasn't, incidentally, that she was had any notions about herself. She just had a regal bearing and was a very nice person behind it. Now, being younger than the Dwyers, Pat hoped that when she and Michael were at that age and they had their family reared, that they would be as carefree as the Dwyers, and not in an envious way either. They held them in high esteem and they had a lot of affection for them. Now, in terms of work and family life, the Dwyers had 2 sons, Conor Jr. and Jerry, as I mentioned already. Conor Dwyer Jr. emigrated to England in 1988, about 3 years before his parents' disappearance, and he recalled both of his parents with love and affection. He laughed as he recalled one of his dad's pranks on him, or making a boxcar with them, and the mishaps that happened after that, and both of his parents generously, each giving him money before a night out as well. And his account depicts a normal family life, and the Dwyers came across as loving parents in his recollections as well. Now, as regards to disappearance, he sounded at a loss, with no idea of what became of them, and he was clearly very upset and disturbed by the situation. And similarly, Bill Fennessey, who I mentioned as well, his wife Noreen Fennessey projected the same sense of not knowing what happened to her husband Bill before he was found as well. And they're both covered in the Thin Air documentary. Now, we're going to take an insert now from the Thin Air documentary. It's approximately 9 minutes there of Conor Dwyer Jr. Recalling his parents and discussing, what loss he was at after their disappearance. So we'll take that now from the Thin Air documentary by Kieran Cassidy.
Oh, my father was hilarious. He used to frighten the life out of me. I remember on occasion, many years ago, I was about 4 years of age, and it was when I was at the Presentation Convent, and my first teacher was a Sister Carmel. And for some reason, I think it was a Friday or Saturday morning, at 8:30, and I came downstairs without my trousers on. I was about 4 years of age. I had no trousers on like that. And my father was going out the front door, and as he opened the front door, he said, "Oh, good morning, Sister Carmel." And I legged it, thinking the nun was standing outside the door looking at me, with great screeches going back upstairs. And I could still hear my father splitting a gut laughing at the front door. He just couldn't stop. He was bent in two. And my mother going, "You're a horrible man. Don't do that to the child." Oh, yeah. Yes, it was good fun at that. Good fun. Yes. Yes, there was an occasion when we made a boxcar, a trolley, old pram wheels and that sort of thing. We decided to test it out. We didn't want to test it out in town because, we didn't have enough run. So we tied it onto the back of the car and drove down the road. It promptly fell over and I cracked my jaw off the ground and there was blood all over my face, and we got it back into the garage, this, that and the other thing. He said, "Your mother's going to kill me." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, put another plaster on it." We had about 5 or 6 sticking plasters on it. I said, "There's only one thing to do." He said, "Well," I said, "Tell her I fell down the stairs." He said, good idea. We'll tell you fell down the stairs." We actually got away with it. She never knew. Yeah, bless his heart. Mum was also good fun. If I was going out for the evening, that sort of thing, she'd say, Dad would turn around and he'd say, "Well, here's a few quid. You've got money." "Yeah, I'm all right, kid." "Go and have another few quid." I'd go into the kitchen and say, "Did he give you money?" "Yeah." "How much did he give you?" "X, tenner," something like that. "That'd be enough." "Yes, Mum, don't worry. Look, I've got £25 tonight. £25 back. 70, a lot of money." Shh, say nothing. Next thing, the purse would open. There'd be enough, just in case. Don't tell him. And the other one, she was great. She'd turn around and she'd say, "Have you got enough cigarettes for tonight?" "I don't smoke." "Don't be silly. I know you smoke. I can smell it off your clothes." And she'd sneak me a packet of cigarettes. Watching my father used to give me cigarettes every now and then. "Don't tell your mother." "Yeah, stay." Keeps the midges away when you're fly fishing. Best excuse I have. So it was very happy. Very fun childhood. Good neighbours, good friends, well respected, normal people. Yeah. Strange what we think of it when we say normal people. There's something definitely abnormal about what happened to them. But they were normal people. I didn't know anybody who disliked them. I can't see them having any enemies. I can't see any rhyme or reason to the entire situation. They were local, friendly, respected people. There's a lot of questions and a lot of unanswered questions that nobody seems to know the answers to. A lot of questions, this, that, and the other thing. And unfortunately, the only answer I have is, I don't know. And I question myself on that sometimes, going, why did this, why that, why the other thing, how, why, when, what? I don't know. And that's what keeps you awake at night. It's a fact of the matter. Like, I'm sure, bless her heart, Mrs. FENNESSEY has thought the same thing. They rattle around in my brain all the time. I'm sure there are many other families around Ireland who are missing members of family. The same thing rattles around in their brains. Why? How? What? Where? The reasons behind which none of us have answers to. And that's the crux of the matter.
Do you think about that last day, though? And, there was kind of an incline where the house was and they pulled off and...
No. I'm often wondering about what the hell was going through their minds. What happened? It's very, very bizarre. Inexplicable. There is no answers. It's a nightmare. A living nightmare that you have to live with every day. Because this is the shadow that is haunting us. It's right there all the time. And it's the incessant questions, and it's that drag you down, down, down all the time. When you have no answers to them. It's an horrific thing for any parent to go through losing a child or something. God forbid it should ever happen to anybody. But when both one's parents go missing, and there's no clues, there's no idea, there's nothing, it's just this void of information. You feel so helpless. You can't do anything about it. I really wish I did know something. I'd like to know whether they're still with us, or if they shed this mortal coil. Yeah. I think they're alive.
Yeah.
I feel it in here, in my heart of hearts, that they're still alive. I hope it's not just wishful thinking, but I think, personally, they're still alive someplace. I'd really like to know what happened. Because it's a very vacant, empty sensation.
Just as well, tell me about the feeling of that they're alive.
Oh,
how would you
I don't know. I don't know if it's a sensation or a feeling. It's just, I can't describe it. I suppose it's not like a sixth sense or something, but I just get the feeling that they're alive someplace. I'm no sage or anything like that, but I just don't know. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. But I hope they're alive.
As a son, would you feel some sort of sense of rejection if you found out they were alive but they'd not made contact over the 19 years?
For the last 17 years, well, rejection, yes, definitely. Why? I don't know. They would reject me. And their sisters, well, my mother's sisters, one who's passed away now, and her brother. If it was my fault, fine, I'd put my hands up and say, boom, but why my aunt, my uncle? Plus the fact that I actually saw them, or spoke to them, should I say, on St. Patrick's Day of the year they disappeared, wish them Happy Paddy's Day.
Would you be angry with them?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what I'd be. To be brutally honest, I don't know what I'd say. No, I don't think I'd be angry with them. I couldn't be angry with them, no. I couldn't be angry with them. But if they wanted to just carry on walking, and I suppose I'd have to respect their privacy. But I hope they wouldn't. I hope they'd want to embrace me as I would like to embrace them. No, I haven't accepted it, but I have to live with it. Simple as that. Life has to go on. I have to live with it, and I hope every day that I can find them again, or somebody will find them, or they'll walk into my life. But it's not a fact of acceptance. It's a fact of living with it, which is very difficult. But even to this day, there's the hope that they'll walk in a door, they'll walk around the corner, I'll bump into them. Don't ask me what I'd say to them, because I don't know myself.
Okay, folks, so that was Recollections by Conor Dwyer Jr. there from the Thin Air documentary. Now, just a quick word on the vehicle. We already showed a picture there, Toyota Cressida, and that was a luxury car produced from 1976 until 1982, and that would be the model that the Dwyers had. And the various other names before and after. The more common family saloon cars of the day, and particularly I grew up in the 1980s, so you would see a lot for the Carina, the Corolla. The less common but slightly sleeker Camry, and then the top of the Toyota range featured the Cressida there, and there was a rare one called the Toyota Crown as well, and that was another luxury Toyota car that you didn't see so often either. That also appeared in various incarnations over the years. Now, and it's often said in these cases, when people go missing with their vehicle, if they find the Cressida, they will find the Dwyers, hopefully anyway. So So that's the vehicle. Now, just a word on Fermoy. It's the largest town in northeast Cork. Monasterarmouy is the Irish name for it. Population of just under 7,000. It lies in the Little River Blackwater, which is central to the town's tourism, which mainly will be fishing, walks, water sports. It's also near the M8, which superseded the N8, which was the main Cork-Dublin route, and the N8 runs through the town. And as you're approaching or leaving Fermoy from the south, from the southwest, there's a Corran Wood Cross high in the hills south of Fermoy. It's a conspicuous landmark when you're approaching or leaving the town there as well. Now, the industries in Fermoy included, there's the Silver Pail Dairy Ice Cream. That was very popular in the 80s, then kind of was quiet for a couple of years and re-emerged again now. Lotus Software were there in the 1920s. And Teagasc's Moore Park Food Research Centre is there as well, and some other industries as well. Now, there's an overhead picture with some labels there as well. Now, we're going to have a quick word about the community now in Fermoy. I think this is all important to set the scene as well. So, and give some context as well. Now, when recording the Thin Air documentary, Ciarán Cassidy had trouble attaining engagement from locals in Fermoy town centre when he asked about the Dwyer case, and he was brushed off by several locals. So we'll just take a quick 31 second insert there just to illustrate that, so you see what he was up against.
Sorry to disturb you, gentlemen. We're doing a programme for next Sunday with the Dwyer family about the disappearance.
Oh, no. No.
Sometimes in Fermoy, it's difficult to get people to talk.
Oh, I wouldn't know much about that, and I wouldn't believe it now. I wouldn't be.
You don't remember back then?
No, not really. No.
And you never heard anything about it
No.
since?
No,
sorry.
No.
That was tough to break in on there for Ciarán Cassidy, but he persevered nonetheless, and got to talk to some people later. Now we'll get to that in a minute, but I think interestingly, despite much social media noise on sites like Reddit, it is useful if you can pick through some of that. There is interesting information in there, and there was an interesting exchange about the community in Fermoy in a thread about this case actually. And one poster, anonymous, don't know who he was, but from reading it, I think it was a young man, but he stated that he was from near Fermoy, and when he asked his parents about this case, they clammed up and refused to be drawn about it, except his father said that Dwyer was known to be weird and would not elaborate. Now, the post was not trying to be mysterious, but when questioned by other posters, he elaborated and said that there's a strong culture of family privacy and not discussing certain sensitive things. And I think that was important because the other poster going, "Oh, I'd love to know what happened," and blah, blah, blah. And like he said, you're missing the context, and he kind of laid it out again. And I think that's important to know here. That's why people weren't inclined to engage with Ciarán Cassidy there. And I grew up in a different part of rural Cork myself, west of Cork City, and I can relate to that. And even though you'll always have gossip and begrudgery and people talking outside their mouth, that's a given everywhere, I think, in Ireland. But I think, for most people where I grew up in rural Cork, I think there was a definite code of minding your own business, and by the same token, not telling other people your business either. And particularly the older generations, my grandparents' generation would certainly instill this, and so I think that was important to them. And as a child or teenager, if you ask some questions about certain things or about certain people, you'd be told in no uncertain terms to just leave it and stop. It was none of your business. So Cassie did get the lady who owned the former Dwyer house to speak, and she did open up on it. And the next door neighbours, who I mentioned earlier, Michael and Pat as well, and they knew them and they spoke about them as well, very objectively as well. So I think that was good to get those interviews in there. Now, just before we get onto the timeline, just a quick word on the Fennessey case. Now, William Bill Fennessey, also referred to as Billy Fennessey in some of the reports, age 53 of Glenbow on the southwest outskirts of Fermoy, vanished with his Daihatsu Charade car on the 30th or 31st of March 1990. That was just over a year before the Dwyers vanished. Now, human remains were accidentally discovered within a car in the River Blackwater in October 2012, and confirmed by DNA testing in May 2013 to be Bill Fennessey's. Now, he was originally from Ballyduff, County Waterford, which is about 11 miles or 18 kilometres east of Fermoy. Fermoy's near the border with Waterford. It's about 7 miles from the border with Waterford. And Bill Fennessey was a popular local businessman and Labour councillor, and he was buried in his native Ballyduff finally on the 15th of June 2013. So his family, did find out what happened to him. What happened to him, how it happened or why it happened, I think is still elusive. But either way, he's carried up in the Blackwater. So that was a very tragic end to a very popular man in the area there. So that's the Bill Fennessey case. Now, Mick will join us now, so we'll get into the Dwyer case timeline now, and Mick Rooney's going to join us there. So,
thanks, Brian. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. First question, Brian. Before we start the timeline, correct me if I'm wrong. This is no. Wait, hang on. I can think of one more. As a couple, and I mean as a couple, as a man-wife couple, married couple, I think this is the first missing couple case we've done.
Yeah.
We did do two Dutch girls.
Yeah.
Who went missing, I think in South America, quite a number of back in the early 80s, maybe around 2010, around that direction, just maybe slightly after. So, sorry, excuse me, I think it was Chris Kramer's case and her friend. But what I mean by that is, look, it is what it is. People go missing. There's hundreds, and indeed over the world, thousands of people that go missing every day. That's just the reality. And for our circumspect and area that we look at, Ireland, unfortunately, there are, unfortunately, people who every day go missing. Thankfully, most of them are found. But definitely a couple of people, be they close friends, be they a marital couple, that's rare. I think you would agree. Very, very rare. And I know people might be conscious and might think, oh, no, because I heard about that other couple. Yes, I know we're not going to go into it here. I'm not going to reference it because we're going to go off on a sidetrack. There is a couple in a recent case that has been mentioned that you will have seen in the newspapers and media over the past week, I think. But believe me, a couple going missing is rare.
Very rare.
Very, very rare. So that's what this case is about. Brian, I'd rather you get into the timeline because there's no point in me, because we're just getting into circumspection, and let's maybe just get it. Well, all I'll say is, whatever you've heard about this couple, it's very clear they were a very humble, quiet, ordinary couple. Conor, strikes me as quite a busy, industrious man. She very much in the Irish classic mammy traditional role, who'd kind of slow out her time, 2 sons away in the UK, living off their own life and getting on with things, and they were happily planning the rest of their life, maybe starting to wind down a little bit in business in life, and were not aware of any major problems or issues going on. So absolutely, there doesn't appear to be any immediate reasons for the events that you're about to describe occurring.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Mick. So we'll start in the 1980s, which is very broad, but Stephen Maguire wrote in The People in London, published in London on 2nd of April 2004, that Conor Dwyer went missing from the family home for a number of years back in the 1980s before returning. Where he went still remains a mystery. Now, it's a very bald statement, implies he went on his own, and it's been often repeated assertion, but it's very vague, no clear context, times, dates, or the specifics. And we still do not know what substance or truth there is to this assertion, or the source of it, or anything like that. So it's put in there, but again, it's, just don't know any more than that really. It's so it's hard to get any specifics on that. Now, we move forward then to January 1991. Conor Dwyer taxes the family's Toyota Cressida car for the last time. Sunday, the 17th of March 1991, Conor Dwyer Jr., who we heard earlier, telephones his parents and sends them greetings for St. Patrick's Day. And then, 30th of April 1991, the Dwyers attend a funeral in St. Patrick's Church in Fermoy, very close to their home in Chapel Hill, as we showed earlier. And this is the last time they were seen in public near the church. Rather, what I mean to say is that was the last time they were seen in public, and it was near the church. And a young neighbour, Catherine Fenton, who would later become a Presentation Convent nun, Sister Lucaria, is believed to be the last person to have seen the Dwyers in person at this time. Now, the Dwyers' next door neighbour, Pat, said that Catherine and the Dwyers greeted each other, and that Catherine Fenton said that she had a feeling that Sheila Dwyer was going to say something to her, but she did not do so in the end, and they went their separate ways. And that was the last known time that the Dwyers were seen in public. In Fermoy or anywhere else. Now, the next day, Wednesday, the 1st of May 1991, Sheila Dwyer's sister speaks to her on the phone. And then 18 days later, Sunday, 19th of May 1991, this was Sheila Dwyer's birthday. Now, her sister attempted to ring her to send her birthday greetings, and she received no answer on the telephone. So both sisters, Maisie and Nellie, subsequently went to the house and found it empty. So then, at an unspecified date in May 1991, one of the sisters contacted Peter Massey. He was a former colleague of Conor Dwyer's and spoke very highly of him, as we mentioned earlier. They asked him, have you had any contact with Conor or Sheila? We haven't heard from them. So they're starting to get worried now at this point. And 3 days after Sheila Dwyer's birthday, her two sisters, Maisie and Nellie Sweeney, report Conor and Sheila Dwyer missing on the 22nd of May 1991. And the gardai enter the house. It's number 5 there. It's the second house, not the corner one there. Second house from the left there, with the car parked outside it there, and yellow front. And they find no sign of a struggle, and nothing seems to be missing. Their passports are in the house. The reading glasses are on the couch. Large sum of cash, reportedly 1,000 Irish punts, was found in a biscuit tin. And the Garda website notes as well that very few items of clothing were there either. Nearly all their clothes were there. Now we've another picture there of Conor and Sheila Dwyer there as well. And this is the inside of the house. We've got a shot of the inside of the house there as well, in the sitting room there, after the house was entered. Now, the following month, June 1991, one Mary O'Dowd from Ballyvolan, not the Cork suburb, Ballyvolan, the other Ballyvolan near Castle Lyons, so a few miles southeast of Fermoy, said she saw the Dwyers in Lourdes Airport in June 1991, that a woman sat next to her son, Thomas, whom she smiled at on a bench, while the man she was with went to get a newspaper but kept watching her. She stated she was unaware of the case until it was featured on a February 1993 Crime Line episode, and that she was 100% sure it was them. Not the smallest bit of doubt in my mind, was the quote she had. And Mary O'Dowd contacted the Gardaí, and a Garda and Sheila Dwyer's sister both spoke to her. She stated that they asked what clothes the couple were wearing, and she described them, and she alleged that it turned out that these were the items of clothing missing from the house in Fermoy. So that was on the witness account there. Now, at an unspecified date, late 1991, next door neighbour Pat, who we heard from earlier, said she was in the hairdressers, which had traffic lights directly outside. And that was sometime after the Dwyer's disappearance. And while she was sitting in the hairdresser's chair, she momentarily saw a car in the mirror stop at the lights with a couple inside, which she thought could be the Dwyers. Now, she alerted her hairdresser, and they both thought it might have been them, although she acknowledged that she was not sure, and the fact that they were prominent in their minds, they were worried about them following their disappearance, may have been a factor in believing that this was the couple. So it's kind of, I find it a bit strange that went down the rabbit hole in it, that a woman who never heard of them or never met them seemed to be 100% sure that this was a couple, even though she'd never seen them before and met them, didn't even meet them properly, but saw them in an airport 18 months previously. And second, the next door neighbour was nowhere near as sure of herself and admitted to as such as well. How much do you think, Mick?
Yeah, the hairdresser salon account and the airport account. I'm not big on either of these reports. Firstly, whatever, and we'll get into what we both think might have happened or mightn't have happened. What's the probabilities and what have you? But look, if an accident happened, you're gone. That's the end of it. And if something happened sometime between, I think it was the end of the 1st of May, wasn't it? Supposedly after the church visit. If you're gone, you're gone. If you're gone, you're gone. You're not coming back as a ghost outside driving past a hairdresser, nor are you appearing in a Lourdes airport. Now, let's just say they chose to disappear, to start a new life, whatever. Are you going to parade in a car through the streets of Fermoy while you're heavily recognised, pass a salon to be witnessed by people? It just doesn't add up. It really doesn't add up. Look, that's all I'm going to say on that. I really don't give a great degree of credence to either of those sightings.
But I think, to be fair, Neighbour Pat had the humility to say she certainly wasn't anywhere sure.
And that's fair enough. But Our Lady in the airport seemed a bit more elaborate, and then clothing, for somebody that she claims that she didn't even know about the case for what was it, a year or two?
18
this
months,
was
I think.
1993. So 18 months later, she didn't even know about the case. But hey, it was definitely them.
It's definitely them. I know. So
okay.
I think almost the hairdresser one carries a bit more weight, even though.
In fairness, and she had somebody sitting beside her who said, "Oh yeah, maybe it is." Yeah, no.
But she knew herself well. She knew she was more clued in anyway. I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so look, we leave it at that. Just to not go down the rabbit hole on that one. So look, Monday, 22nd of February 1993, the aforementioned Crime Line episode was broadcast. It's where I read it said 2nd of February, but that was a Tuesday, so I presume they meant 22nd of February there, because that was a Monday. Another alleged sighting was in Munich in 1983 as well. It piqued interest given Dwyer's employment with German businessman Fritz Wolf in Castellines as well. Again, nothing came of that. No. We move on a bit further then, and 3 years later, September 1986, Fritz Wolf was in trouble financially and defended in the High Court when 28,000 Irish punts in proceeds from art sales was frozen due to Castellines' house being repossessed by a bank, and there was a number of German plaintiffs were after him as well, seeking to enforce a judgment of the Regional Court of Frankfurt for the equivalent of over 222,000 Irish punts as well. So he was in a spot of bother there anyway. The following year then, March 1987, the Dwyer's house was sold by auction, and also a site they owned elsewhere in Fermoy was sold as well, and that's reported the Evening Echo in Cork there as well. Now, another article in the Cork Examiner states that the above piece of land was sold in the months prior to the couple's disappearance for 67,000 punts there in 1981. So maybe these were these were sold separately. The land was separate from the house, but maybe these were were sold separately. We're not sure. It's hard to tell there. Now, moving on a bit further, then this is a strange thing here. It's good to get more information. But Gardaí receiving intelligence search a lime quarry Gardaí received intelligence search a lime quarry in Aherla, west of Cork City. Now, Aherla is kind of between it's not too far from Farran. It's out that direction, Farran, Ovens, that kind of direction there, which is, you know, the other side of Cork, really, from Fermoy. Fermoy is north east of Cork. This is kind of west of Cork City, and it's a long way away from Fermoy. And this search and live inquiry yields nothing on the case. But it's curious, you know, why Aherla. So it'd be interesting to know what the intelligence for this was. But that was the end of that. Either that didn't yield anything. No, again, it just gets very thins out an awful lot. Then, I mean, the Gardaí is still active case, and they pick up whatever they can. But I mean, there's very little then after that. 23rd of March 2008, the Thin Air documentary that we mentioned earlier, I played the kids around by Kieran Cassidy's broadcast on RT Radio 1. Then sadly, 1st of April 2009, Sheila Dwyer's brother Michael Sweeney passes away. And then on the 2nd of February 2017, Sheila Dwyer's last surviving sibling, Maisie Sweeney, passes away then as well. So that's the timeline taking us up to 2017. So now we're kind of into the case analysis and conclusions now at this point. So anything else you want to say there after the conclusion of the timeline there, Mick?
The first thing that struck me was that normally when someone goes missing, yes, we hear from the family, and we've had the extracts from Conor. I in fairness, out of respect to Jerry, the other brother, I think Conor is a bit more vocal and articulate, and he kind of handled things for the family, and that's generally what happens with families. Usually you hear from work colleagues. I'm currently only aware of something from 2 work-related colleagues. Well, the absence of one, the obvious one, the boss, who was the guy who he chauffeured for predominantly, but also did a few other bits and pieces of maintenance work for, and that's our guy. Is it Carl, the German businessman?
Fritz Wolf.
Fritz Wolf.
Yeah, and then Peter Massey was the other guy.
And then I found it interesting that I think Peter, is it Peter, his friend? Yeah. I think he also did a little bit of work also for Fritz.
Yeah.
And he did say that in the weeks leading up, he thought there was a slight perception of a change in demeanour or mood of Conor coming up to that time, but it didn't really strike him as out of ordinary. He just reflected on it and thought, there was a slight change of his demeanour coming up to that time, but that might have been to do with other things, not necessarily aren't related to the subsequent disappearance. I think the glaring thing is that for someone who entrusted a very valuable collection of vintage cars that were probably worth millions, allowed into his life, his business life, I found it odd that the German businessman didn't really make any whatsoever comments really publicly about. I would have thought he would have come forward and said, this is terrible, and Conor and Sheila were a lovely couple, I think the world of them, and I'll do anything to and please people. Yet there was really nothing of it, and I'm wondering, are we falling into a trap there where maybe the romanticism of the local handyman doing a bit of work for the big conglomerate multi-millionaire, that maybe there was a closer link there than really existed, that really they went missing, and he went, well, this guy that worked for me, but I have hundreds of thousands of people who work for me, and really that was about that. Maybe in the media more is being made of that, but it struck me that he didn't come forward really in any way that at least I could find when I looked at this.
Silence was definitely
the silence was a little bit deafening, and the idea that they would have went off to create another life, the £1,000 punt in the biscuit tin, and if you're going to create another life for yourself, you're not going to disappear off like Thelma and Louise into the sunset in a fucking Toyota Cressida, which isn't the most popular of cars, drive it on a ferry, and then suddenly the car just disappears into nowhere. That doesn't seem to add up with people creating a new life. The only oddity I think that we came across, that, and we can't get to the bottom of it, and we'll be honest with you, is the bit about the clearly they were a humble couple, but they did own, obviously their own property, their own house, but they did own an adjacent property to Chapel Hill, and we're not sure whether there's a second property, a second field or piece of land that maybe existed beforehand that they got rid of, and we're not sure of the times, because I can find no record of the sales of those land. One was mooted to be supposedly several months before they disappeared, which clearly would be highly relevant, and I think that was I think it was described by the Cork Examiner as a record 67k, which probably would have been quite a significant price for land at that time, and because it didn't look a particularly big field, but maybe.
Well, house prices would have been even
and maybe it was just and maybe it was just coincidence. Maybe it was just opportunistic. Maybe the council seeing a potential development for the future there, and a client that could move in and use that site, made them an offer they couldn't refuse. Or these news articles have their dates wrong, and the property is the same property we're talking about and was sold with the house. But it would seem in 1997 a house and a property going for 67k would be, you wouldn't get a dog box even in 1997, and property and land for that. So I don't think the property is included in that. I think that 67 either includes the land and it was sold prior to disappearance, or the 67k is in reference, and these articles have got their information mixed up. But honestly, coming up to this timeline, we could not find enough sources to validate either. So that's all recorded in the timeline, and we're not sure, but we think there could be some relevance to that if there was a sale of land prior to, because that could have been a case of freeing up money for something planned. I don't know.
Yeah, could be relevant. But I think can I just say as well, back to the previous point, I think, like I said, the signs were definitely from Fritz Wolf. Also, I mean, given he was I know he had his problems later, maybe they were already brewing, but 5 years later, but I mean, he was still seemed to be going strong in 1981, so I mean, you'd expect, if this guy working for him and he disappeared, and it was reported and so on, I mean, you'd expect he'd be going, where the hell is my chauffeur? Who's going to look after my cars? And
He was
then
gonna
off the
look
back
at
of
it.
that,
And, I bet the night he heard that Conor and Sheila are missing, he ran out to his fucking shed and started doing a head count on his cars. Are they all here now? Is it one of my cars they've headed up? You know, I don't buy into the reason why he didn't. I can't understand why he wouldn't have come forward and been more vocal.
Exactly, or that even he could have come forward and said, look, this guy did a lot of work for me. I'm putting up a 10 grand reward for anybody.
20 grand reward, it's nothing to me, please, for goodness sake, if you know something.
Yeah, we want him back. I want him back in here, and
Yeah.
we want to find his wife as well. She's a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Where the hell are they, like, So there was none of that, like, and it's so it was strange, So that's it anyway. Okay, so look, we'll just go into the case analysis and conclusions there. Now, again, very disturbing and baffling case, and for the family is, as you heard son Conor say earlier, a living nightmare. And well, he did feel, or at least hope, that they were alive in 2008. No, that bear in mind, now 2008, that's nearly as far back to then. 2008 back to 1991 when they disappeared. Nearly the same amount of time has passed again since that was broadcast. And by the time of the death of Maisie Sweeney on the 2nd of February 2017, the family believed they were deceased, as the RIP.ie death notice reads: Maisie passed away peacefully in the exceptional care of the staff at St. Patrick's Community Hospital, Fermoy, beloved daughter of the late Mick and Julie, and loving sister of the late Sheila, Nellie and Michael. And her funeral was held in St. Patrick's Church there. So that's the death notice reproduced there. So they believed Sheila was deceased at that point, and presumably Conor as well.
I think there isn't a reference where the piece that you heard from Kieran Cassidy, I think there's been subsequent pieces where Conor Jr., the son, has ultimately kind of accepted. I don't believe now that he is. I know I said back in that earlier documentary that I just sensed that he could still be alive, but I think there was a sense by 2008 that he kind of come to accept, like the rest of the family, as the sisters passed away, that they're not coming back either. Yeah,
because bear in mind as well, like, I mean, if Conor Dwyer was 62 in 1991, that would early 1991, that would make it more
as of today, they would be.
So.
Look, the one thing I think, and hand at heart, and please understand, we don't mean any insensitivity by this. I think it's reasonable to say now that whatever you believe happened in this case, Conor and Sheila Dwyer are very, very likely no longer with us. Because if you believe they are, then they're in their early to mid 90s, and I think maybe one, but I don't think they are. Whatever happened, they're certainly, if they went off to live their alternative life and escaped, good luck to them. Didn't tell anybody, but they're certainly longer with us now. But
he'd be 95 or 96, she'd be 93, 94.
But I don't believe any time after the disappearance they were much longer alive.
Right.
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
We'll just go through a few things there, Mick, and folks there. So we have that's the death note for Maisie there, and Maisie Sweeney. The Dwyer's disappearance left no known trace, as you can see there, and as Ralph Regan noted, with no evidence trail, this left a vacuum, which was filled with rumour or whatever the latest trending conspiracy theory was. And wherever you see that before, Mick,
Yeah. Every second corner we turn.
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
a conspiracy glaring us in the face, hugging us, trying to hug us, hold us closer.
Envelops of it. I know, So, there were countless rumours, some of which just became ridiculous. I mean, the Dwyer's next door neighbours, Michael and Pat, were thankfully very objective and open, discussed the rumours in the Thin Air documentary. And given the volume of sightings, Michael questioned that if they were true, how the hell Conor Dwyer was getting around. And he was seen the Isle of Man, he was seen indoors, he was seen wherever the hell, like, and Munich, etc. And he declared it ludicrous. And he was right, really, So I think the eyewitness accounts are notoriously unreliable. And I think just myself, I think unless the witness knows the person in question and speaks to them at the time, their account can carry less weight. I think I noticed myself. I'll just give an example there. I'm very observant, but I mean, I came back for a visit post-COVID lockdown there a few years back, late in 2021 to Cork from London, and I saw who I thought was a friend of the family at the airport. I call her Anne, and I said, "Oh, there's Anne. I must go and say hello." And then I saw her husband, and funny enough, the husband looked like her husband, and I said, "Oh, there's Tony, but he's lost weight and he looks a bit different." And then I did another good look at them, and I said, "That's not them at all." Like, no, if there were people I didn't know well or just knew to see, I could easily have assumed incorrectly and said, "Oh yeah, I saw him in Cork Airport." Like, you know, if something came up, so it's easily done. And I think if people are upset and worried and thinking about people a lot, then you know they'll want to see them, and that can feed into it. And neighbour Pat said this as much herself as well, so you know it's good that they were grounded people anyway and had an objective about things. No,
but Brian, can I just say something? And it's just a throw in, and it reflects that point. You and I have known each other for most of this year, but just shock horror, you and I have never met actually in public, but yet we have spent countless hours, tens, probably up to 100 hours of our time, of our lives online with each other.
Yeah.
Yet I can guarantee you, this Christmas, if we arrange to meet somewhere, we walk into a pub, we arrange to meet on the corner of a street, we arrange to meet in a cafe, I guarantee you we will look once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. Is that Mick? I better not go up to him in case it's somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the point Brian is trying to make here. Even when you think you know somebody, it's when you see them in context, the height, just in context in real life, suddenly you start to ask questions. Is that actually the person I think it is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Brian, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, spot on, Mick. All right. No, another rumour there involved Conor Dwyer becoming a Quaker, and another had him working for a drug baron. And I mean, I've actually read both of those in the same statement, which is absolutely bananas, like, because the Quakers, they're the Society of Friends. A Quaker, a member of the Society of Friends, they're dedicated to their community, and they're teetotalers as well, you know, and they'd certainly not be involved in anything like that, you know. So that's just madness. No, given that Conor Dwyer seemed to have steady work that he enjoyed with Fritz Wolf, in fact, he was industrious, he worked for himself, the central heating, the pipes business, his abilities as a handyman, and relatively comfortable lifestyle that he had eked out there. It seems unlikely Dwyer would involve himself or his wife, who was with him a lot of the time when he was travelling, with him in such activities, you know. And bear in mind again, like I said at the top of the programme there, this was 1991, you know, a regional town in Ireland, you know, it wasn't, you know, downtown Baltimore or somewhere, like, you know, this was a regional town in County Cork, you know, back in 1991. You know, I'm not saying there wasn't drugs there or anything like that, but you know, it was less pronounced the issues around that than what we have today. Now, neighbour John Murphy described them as nice, quiet people. He said Sheila was a lovely, polite woman in particular, and mentioned that they went off on their holidays and they did their own thing and they were good church-going people. And furthermore stated, I couldn't really see Conor doing anything silly. He was too fond of life. He was a man who was never in bad form. So that's a statement there. No, you never know again, but you know, I think these are people that, you know, knew them as well as anybody there as well. And his son's statement as well bears that out. Now, there were further rumours of both the suicide pact or a murder-suicide. Now, again, such rumours have no roots in fact or anything other than gossip and subsequent hearsay, because the episode where, you know, he allegedly disappeared in the 1980s is often mentioned in connection with those two possible scenarios. And again, this is hearsay, because if either of those tragedies did occur, no remains have been recovered, so there's no evidence of them. So how the hell could people know about this, you know? So, you know, murder and concealment don't seem to be likely either, given their son's insistence that nobody disliked them or had any issues with them. And disappearing, starting a new life elsewhere is possible, but again, unlikely given the items that were left in the house, the money left in the house, the fact that their assets weren't liquefiable unless the business with the site. But I mean, you know, if you're going to go off and start a new life somewhere, you're going to want to, you have to have a package to do that, like, you know, and their living situation suggested that, you know, they didn't do that, like, and the car wasn't detected leaving the country either. That's not to say didn't get out some way, but I mean, again, it's just, you know, not very, doesn't sound very likely. Now, also, just to recall again, just to reiterate, Conor and Sheila Dwyer and their car disappeared at the same time. So finding the car, as we said, is key to solving the case. And there's no record of the car leaving the country. There's no record of the car being sold, being re-registered, being retaxed, or being seen at all since. And so a strong theory would be that the wires in the car somehow ended up in the River Blackwater and that they're concealed there. Or they could also have been a tragic accident elsewhere and the car could be concealed in undergrowth or a hole or a quarry or whatever. So either, you know. Now, in the 10-hour documentary, Ralph Riegel thought the theory involving the River Blackwater unlikely due to expecting to find tracks or disturbances to vegetation or fishermen snagging their car with lines. So I think he really underestimated the size, volume, the amount of liquid and solid material that lies under the surface of a river of the size of the Blackwater. And you know, these rivers' ability to hide and shift over time. And indeed, the recovery of Bill FENNESSEY's remains and his daihatsu from the River Blackwater, that literally blows the uncertainty completely out of the water there. Now, there've been other similar recoveries as well. I mean, the remains of Michael Tony Lynch and his Mitsubishi, missing since 6th of January 2002, were recovered from Loch Cardillar in, the pronunciation there, in Fermanagh in 2020. And Barry Collin, we say Collin in Cork, I think the rest of the country says Coughlin, but Barry Collin, last seen in his native Crosshaven, County Cork, and his Toyota were last seen on the 1st of May 2004, and his remains in the vehicle were recovered in 2021 near Hugh Coveney Pier in the town. Literally, it was right pretty much where he parked there, very close, and so he was under their noses all the time, all along. So sadly, those cases there, you know, that's and there's another case in a guy called Peter Hyde as well, that was seen in 1981, and they think his brother thinks that he could be in the water somewhere in Cork as well. That was mentioned at the National Missing Persons Day, another very, very low profile case, but hopefully they managed to recover his remains as well. So I mean, it's just a theory again, but his brothers seem to believe that. So I think that's the most likely scenario. Again, we just don't know. It's just a trade went cold on the 1st of May 1991, but I think that's the most likely scenario of what happened to them, but we just don't know until something else comes up. So, Mick, any final thoughts there?
Yeah, Ralph with his I don't think they went into the Blackwater like the unfortunate situation with William Fennessey. Well,
yeah.
Ralph, I don't think you've been paying attention.
Yeah.
There's plenty of incidences where cars have been found decades after, and not just in water, even out in the Florida Everglades, ditches, swamps, lakes, forests, where they literally, nature has a wonderful ability to adapt around a foreign object and conceal it literally in a matter of weeks and months. And that's the beauty and the strength of nature and the frustration of it at the same time.
Yeah.
I've looked at this case head to toe, despite the missing pieces we have about when was the land sold, was it before, was it after, maybe that has something. Okay, why didn't Fritz make more of a thing about this couple, you know, when he was connected, would have known them personally? But I still can't find anything nefarious in this case. So that can only lead me to two scenarios. And that is, one, disappearance by their own actions, or disappearance by accident. I can't find any motivation for this couple to feel the need to disappear. to escape money problems, troubles, or anything. I can't find anything. I think we would know that, and I think the Gardaí would know that. And
it would come out in the wash through their finances, right? Sorry, that's the other thing you mentioned about their bank accounts weren't touched since. I think it would have come out in the wash there, like if something like that.
So I don't see anything, and which is why I'm dismissive of the accounts of the couple being seen later in airports in Lourdes and then feckin'. Well, okay, before we even get there, well, what was the motivation and reason for them even to disappear? Why? They had their entire 20 years of retirement to live comfortably. A nice couple, well respected couple, welcomed in the area. They weren't running from anything. Like if you're going to come up with a scenario of some sort of collective suicide or disappear, well, before you do that, what were they running? What is it that they're running from? And then that's the problem. You start to get into the Reddit elaborate. Oh well, German. Oh, there must be or drugs. Or or gold. Then you start getting into stupid, conspiracy theories to explain away an idea that just doesn't work. I think this couple tragically experienced an accident sometime within 24 or 48 hours of them being noticed that they were not there or not present in their home.
There's first or 2nd May, I suppose. It could have been a couple of days after that. Because
it could have been. She had the phone call on the 1st of May with everything seemed okay. So one would tend to see him that the disappearances occurred 24 to 48 hours after the church visit. And I have no reason to believe it wasn't in tragic and unexpected circumstances. I don't know as a couple how far they travelled, what their plans were. Maybe the people closest with them might be able to disclose that. Oh yeah, they were talking about heading off on a trip to here or there, or heading around Ireland or doing this, that. I don't know. Or what his work plans were, I don't know. But clearly, as we've always said, if you look for Conor and Sheila, they are where that car is, and that car is intricately involved in because they left in that car. This isn't a hijack or a burglary that some burglar broke into the house and said, right, you two, we're tying you up, get in the back of the car, and we're sorry, it doesn't work.
Just standard home.
Sorry, you missed the biscuit tin with a grand in it in cash. That was free and easy. You could have got in, got out, and nobody would have noticed it. It doesn't work.
But I mean, the scene in the house kind of would indicate like that. I mean,
everything was tranquil, undisturbed.
Well, their glasses were left there, so I don't think they were going on a trip because
nobody leaves. We had this with the Barbara Walsh case.
Yeah,
her glasses were found in the house. We know, and in that case, we know something appears untoward to have happened because the glasses were left in the house, and she hasn't been seen, and she left alone.
Melkeen.
Yeah, where and Imelda Keane. Well, no, both cases. Imelda Keane is another case where glasses were left. That's a good indicator that somebody has left home unexpectedly, maybe popped out to the shops. Like I go out to the shops, I don't bring me glasses necessarily, and sometimes I get frustrated because of course I pick up something and go, oh, what's a fucking
they're reading glasses.
Reading glasses.
That's the point.
But if somebody has permanent glasses, they go everywhere with them. They might put them down on the sofa or the coffee table to rest their eyes, but you can bet when they get up to move, it's the first thing they reach for is pick up the glasses, put them back on, and then they move. So I think something sadly not tragic or nefarious, but I think an accident has happened here and befallen that couple, and somehow, like William Fennessey, they're probably we probably, and I hope for the family one day, we'll probably discover that ironically they're not all that far from home at all.
Yeah, I'd say so, because even the house suggests that, because the reading glass were left there. It seems like they kind of just they weren't gone out for a long trip. They were going out. It seems like they were just slipped out for a while. They were due to come back again because the reading glass were left there. It was.
I don't. Do we know from the funeral that they went to, just up the road on Chapel Hill? Yeah. Do we know if they brought the car? I wouldn't imagine they brought the car.
Oh no, I don't think so.
It's literally
they walked past
100 yards. 100 yards.
They walked
up the
past
road,
the future nun, so they were on foot there. I think near the steps, but I mean they're not going to drive down or up there like.
Yeah. So what I mean by that is, they're not in the house. We don't know what their plans were. Nobody can tell us what their immediate plans were on the evening of the last day of April and the first day of May. What exactly, we know the phone call occurred on the 1st of May with the sister. If they went anywhere, they weren't planning to go far, but they were going far enough that required the car.
Took the car, yeah.
Yeah, because they were happy to go to the church on foot, which is only up the road in Chapel Hill. Yeah. So we know whatever the plans were, they were at least going somewhere that they didn't instinctively, as a couple in their early 60s, think they would just walk there. Yeah. So they were definitely going somewhere, but expected it to be a short journey and they would be back very soon.
So, yeah.
And that sounds more like quite literally popping to the supermarket or the shop and nothing more than that. Nothing more of any significance than that.
Yeah. I think so, yeah. So that's it. Okay, so I think, look, again, we sincerely hope this case can be solved as soon as possible for the Dwyer sons and for every other remaining family members and friends that survive. Because sadly, her siblings never got answers, and there was never much mention of his family. But if there was anyone on his side, they didn't either, and of course the two sons, neither of them either. So hopefully there'll be answers for survivors anyway, sooner rather than later. And Gardaí working in the case believe that this decades-long mystery can be solved. So anyone with information on the Dwyers or the Toyo of Cressida is asked to come forward and help bring some closure to the family. Anyone with information is asked to contact Crime Call on 1-800 40 50 60 or Fermoy Garda Station on 025 821 00. So obviously from outside Ireland that would be 00353 25 82100. So thanks for tuning in, folks. This episode of Radio Spoil. Stay safe, look after each other. We'll hopefully be back with another timeline early to mid-December. However, this will be our final timeline episode for the year before we break for the festive holiday season and back again in New Year.
Okay, thanks, Brian, and thanks for all your work on the timeline. Great work.
Thanks, mate.
We'll see you all again soon. God bless. And as I say, it'll probably be early to mid-December for our next timeline. We will have maybe one or two more features, but believe me, it's the end. It's coming up to the end of 2024, and we need a break from this now for a good 2 or 3 weeks over the Christmas period. Okay, but you'll have to suffer us for 2 or 3 more weeks. We'll talk to you again. Probably a feature next week, and maybe the following week a timeline. Talk to you then. Take care, everybody.
All the best, folks. Thanks for tuning in.